Okay, so
it's like drag models for rockets, doesn't really matter.
It's going to help, help to where you can see those targets a little bit better.
That's not a hard and fast rule, it's just the way some of us talk.
We are MDT. We design, test, and create precision rifle chassis and accessories to help you shoot better.
Hey, talking about shooting slang. So BOI, POA, point of impact and point of aim. So you're shooting, okay, my POA is that steel target, and I hit 3 inches high, that was my point of impact. So point of aim where you're looking, point of impact where the bullet lands.
So after you clean your barrel, it will be very, very clean, which can put a impact shift on your first shot or first couple shots even. So it's important to foul your barrel with a couple shots before you go and shoot something like a competition or shoot for accuracy.
BC is a term you hear a lot. It stands for ballistic coefficient. Technical as you get, it's like drag models for rockets, doesn't really matter. All you need to know, the higher number, the better. So the higher the number, the more aerodynamic your bullet is, it's gonna be better for long range.
when that gun hammers, that thing's shooting one hole. It's always shooting the same place, and you got complete confidence. That's a hammer.
A lot of guys, you'll say a left wind, and they'll think, you know, it's blowing to the left. But usually when we're saying it at matches, I say, hey, left wind, a half mil, means it's coming out of the left. You're gonna hold left the target, your bolt's gonna drift in. Right wind, coming from the right, drift in. That's not a hard and fast rule, it's just the way some of us talk.
A clean cold bore is typically referred to the first shot out of a rifle after you've cleaned it and it has not yet been fired that day, so it's not been warmed.
Okay, so what's an AD? Accidental discharge. What's an ND? A negligent discharge. What's either one of them? Wrong. A gun should only go off when you expect it to. If it doesn't, you got a problem.
BTO and COAL more in terms of ammunition reloading. So BTO is base to ogive. So if you're measuring how long you're gonna shoot your bullet, this is the base. Ogive is somewhere in here. After the taper bullet hits the maximum diameter of the bullet. COAL is cartridge overall length, so base to tip. Why that matters, magazine length. So for example, like 6.5 PRC in a short action, a lot of factory or SAMI spec COAL is 2.950, and a lot of mags are somewhere in there. So you just want to double check that when you're reloading, that your base to tip or cartridge overall length is short enough to fit into your mag without the tip catching and dragging.
Flagging means you point the muzzle end of the rifle in the general direction of somebody else.
Fire cracking. It also goes along with the bore scope, because you can't see fire cracking if you don't have a bore scope. This is the downside of a bore scope, and probably why most gunsmiths hate for anyone to have one, because if you look down your barrel, it looks terrible. So don't look at it, or know that all barrels fire crack. So it doesn't take a lot of rounds, a lot less on a Magnum than a 28 Nozzler or a big Magnum to show it real quick. Conservative, maybe a little less, but you can look down a barrel with a bore scope and you can see literal cracks in the metal. I don't know how deep they are, I'm not a scientist, but look at your own risk and don't worry about it.
MV is muzzle velocity, which is a really critical component to long range shooting. You need to know what speed the bullet's coming out of your barrel so you can calculate the drop using your ballistics calculator.
Another term we talk about is checking waterline. And so a lot of time it matches. We'll say to your buddy, hey, help me watch this, I'm gonna check my waterline. I don't care where I hit left and right on that target. I'm just checking that at 700 yards, the dope or the number I get from my Kestrel or whatever I'm using to gather my elevation is perfect. I don't care if I miss way left or right. I want that perfect waterline. 500 yards, 700 yards, 1,000 yards. I want my elevation to line up, and I'll work on wind later.
Sunshade, this piece here on the end of the scope. I found that for me, when shooting at certain lighting conditions, having a sunshade will help prevent some shadow. It does take away from some of the light collecting ability, but when you're shooting into an area where the sun is nearby, it's going to help, help to where you can see those targets a little bit better. One thing to consider is when you're going to shoot a stage and you're going to be threading things in and out, or you may be limited to the height, you may need to take that sunshade off so that you can bring your rifle closer in.
Spin drift. If you have a right-hand barrel, you'll have a right-hand rotation to your riflings, so that bullet is spinning at 300,000 RPM, and as it goes out there, it constantly climbs to the right. If you have a left-hand twist, then that bullet's spinning to the left and it'll slowly move to the left.
Aerodynamic jump or crosswind jump. All that means is generally most barrels are right twist. Barrel comes out of the bullet, rolling this way. When your wind is coming from the left, it's gonna roll over the top of it and push it down at distance. When the wind's coming from the right, it's gonna roll up the wind and hit higher. So that gets a little technical. When you start shooting longer ranges and higher winds, it's something to pay attention to.